phone.
Not where
You want me to move over here?
Yeah, because then I don't have to like sit at my head so much. Then I just get to like look at you as a group.
That's
pretty
selfish.
I know, I'm gonna be selfish right now. Put you over.
Remember we talked about the fires this morning, right?
Yeah, we.
We talked about this.
All right, let's get started. We are gonna start with bucket fills and something good, and it is Thanksgiving week. It's actually tomorrow. So I wanna hear, I don't wanna have to pull things out of you about what you're grateful for, this week at all, because I know there's a lot of things. So who wants to start?
I see some friends I haven't seen in like 6 months, so it's fun.
Like starting today, or you've already started seeing them?
I saw one last night, and then I guess see some on Friday. So
Awesome. Super fun. What else?
The sunshine. And that Hy-Vee does really convenient, easy pickup food for Thanksgiving.
Well, they do. I'm sure we had to have that in like a few days ago, but. Awesome. What else? Hey, look, I have a couple. That is awesome.
One personal, we picked up my dog from boot camp training for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And was home, and he is pretty well trained now. Still have some things we'd like to iron out, but it's just nice to have him home.
Takes time.
Yeah, he's still a puppy. He just turned 1. So
Okay.
and then professional or work and team wise, we had our business planning last Thursday here in the room, and it was just a really awesome day full of gratitudes from this year, learnings from this year, and just projections next year and goal setting.
I have more.
Oh, look at it. Here goes. I'm gonna one up her on this one.
No. They're all great. No. So last week we had our office happy hour, and it was awesome. Like there were so many people that showed up, and two happy hours ago, our server Jake, like we got in contact with him, Brick, Maddie, and I, and he showed up to like the happy hour. Last week.
Happy hour.
Mhm. Yeah, he had his dad. Like he was just walking down the road and was like, he's just like, oh yeah, I'll show up for just for a little bit, and like he was.
Awesome.
He's so nice.
I was like, this is really random, but this is awesome.
Super cool.
And then thanks to did you guys buy the apps?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That was really awesome.
I think the server took a little liberty on that.
Well, that'll teach me for just saying, fill them up.
They were like, yes, we will.
Yeah.
See, we're good.
They're all good though. I think they all got 8.
Awesome. Super cool. What else?
Want to bucket fill my team. So last week we had a really successful presentation for the West Hennepin Chamber of Commerce that I'm a part of. Gave an overview on what was going on in the market, kind of breaking it down for everybody, and it sparked some really great conversations afterwards with a lot of people. And then we had a couple great open houses, and this last one we did was last Saturday. We had like 30 to come through, which was really awesome, and we all worked it together, and it, yeah, super successful. So it's grateful for them and how that whole thing gels.
I think it's worth bucket filling the 13 ladies that are representing today. This room is full.
Did you just like count that out? Where you
Yeah.
were like,
No, that's powerful. I was like, what the heck's going on? You guys are running.
well, get used to it, right?
Cue the Beyonce song.
What else? What else are we grateful for? Our bucket fills this week.
Well, I was about to go to an open house this weekend, and I was just kind of, just going through the motions a little bit, and I ran into Rick at the office, and then we talked for whatever, 10 minutes, whatever it was. Just talking to what he's got going on, what I got going on, everything. By the end of that conversation, I felt like invincible. And it set the tone for the rest of the weekend for the open house Saturday and Sunday. And they went great, and I think a lot of it had to do with our conversation, you know, and just, you know.
That was awesome. Yeah, we made some connections that like just talking with Chris, and just talk to people a little bit, and next thing you know, a lot of really nice connections.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad it went well.
So, yeah.
That was awesome. There's only two of us in the office on Saturday.
It's you and me. What else? What else is good? If you're going to Thanksgiving tomorrow, you guys are gonna have to share something, I'm guessing.
Grateful that Kelly lives nearby because my husband works so late during the winter month. So it's like having a second family. I don't have family really here in Minnesota. So her and her husband really have kind of brought me in a little bit.
Cool.
Oh, Alex and Sam got married.
Oh,
There
we go.
That was fun. I see Ben.
Ben's online. Finally, your brother grew up, man.
And he's like, no comment.
He's probably driving.
He's probably exhausted. From all
Well, it
that.
could be Jacob. Yeah, it could be.
Oh, it might be Jacob.
Oh, there you go.
Never mind.
Yeah.
They're zooming. All right. So here's the rest of calendar of events. Next week, Wednesday, we have the collective team meeting. We do have some free CE, which is on Tuesday, the 28th. And then we have the contract for deed. And I think a lot of people were actually talking about that and asking about it as it's come up just with interest rates and whatnot. So that would be a great class. So there's some really great things happening next week to kind of end November. And then in December, we have quite a few interesting classes as well that will be coming up.
Jeannie, can I mention something super quick on
Yeah, you
contract for
can.
deeds? So contracts for deeds traditionally in the past have always been beneficial to a buyer who has bad credit or who's got a difficulty, something with a job, right? So in the market shift, we've had people say, well, I'm not able to get a loan, so I'm gonna do a contract for deed. Well, things have shifted. The market the way it is, we're starting to talk to some of our sellers about offering seller financing. So traditionally, if the interest rate was 5%, a contract for deed would be 7%, right? Because it's a little bit more risky. A buyer doesn't have credit to get a regular loan. Now it's opposite. So now if a seller is offering it and we got a 7.5% interest rate, sellers are now stepping up and saying, hey, we'll do a contract for deed financing, you know, as advertised on our listing, 5 or 6%. And that could end up being a win-win for both parties. So this is not a bad class to go to because it really can help now both sides in a very different way. But we got to find a way to get some of these houses sold in a market where, you know, it's harder for lenders.
Candy and I were also talking about, we can talk about this too when we bring up some of the stats about offers and buyers and sellers about buy downs right now are huge in regards to some of the offers that are being written where that's not affecting the seller's net necessarily as much like bringing the price point down. So we'll chat about that when we bring up some of the stats that we got from Profile as well. Is that fair? Cool. Any questions on that? Okay. Our office will be closed the next 2 days. Just, I think, you know, for Thanksgiving, and I think that was sent out last week as well. So if there's something that you need an emergency, feel free to contact myself or Heather, and we can make whatever needs to be done happen on whether or not it's multiple listing or whatnot. So otherwise, enjoy your holiday, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Next week. Tuesday is the CE class, and is that at Edina? You do have to schedule or have to sign up for that, correct, in order to actually get the CE credits. And I believe they shut those down usually 24 hours in advance. So if you're planning on going to that, please sign up before Monday at 11 o'clock. Otherwise, you will not get.
Okay, also about Heartland, you can join a lot of their CE. They have tons of free CE online as well. So if you can't make it to Edina on Tuesday, go to their website and they have something almost like every Monday for an hour in the morning. And it's like a super easy way to start knocking out your CE. And I mean, it's stuff that you might use, like they're doing sewer scopes and stuff, so.
By the way, a sewer scope, we just had a horrific one at this office. So, it's well worth going to one, a situation where it had split off into 3 different properties. Where it collapsed and they could not get a hold of the 3rd property owner, which essentially had to make the entire listing go PNAS. Because you can obviously start, city says you can start doing the work, but that does not mean that that 3rd property owner is going to pay for that. So, there are a lot of things I think that we take for granted in some of the inspection items because usually it goes smoothly. When it does not go smoothly, it does not go smoothly. So, well worth learning a little bit more about, those situations. Collective meeting is gonna be in Elk River on Wednesday. That will be via Zoom as well, but however, if you have time to go to Elk River, it's always nice when people come here, and the room gets full. So if you do have time to go up there for that meeting, they always appreciate it as well. And then Thursday is gonna be at the Lakes office, with Annalee and Ryan on contract for deed and assumable loan. Oh, you wanna do a little plug here? Candy?
Sure.
Probably gotten phone calls also from Mar that our dues are due on December 1st. And if you do not pay those, there are things that happen. Candy, I'll let you take it from there. 'Cause Candy's the one that deals with that.
Yeah, so I've been pulling it and majority of us have not paid those yet. So maybe it takes time over your Thanksgiving weekend to log on and pay those dues. The association has sent out like an email every week since the beginning of November to your email. So the link's right there. It's super easy. Just click on that and get those paid. Remember, they aren't auto paid because they're those extra things that you can decide to pay or not pay. So you do have to manually go in there and pay these. And they're due on the 30th. If you don't pay them by the 30th, on December 1st, you won't have MLS access anymore. So
And I think there's a late charge.
there is a late charge, yeah. And
It's
there's,
usually $50.
and you have to go through the process of, getting it back up and just, so.
And he's like.
Next week, if you don't do it over the weekend, I will start calling you, but I would love to have a really small call list, so. It's not about me, it's about your MLS access, but, yeah, let's get those paid.
Well, and it causes issues for your clients, right? Because you usually don't notice until MLS is gone and then you're like, why can't I log in? What's going on? Well, you just ignored probably at least 6 to 7 emails about paying your. Don't worry, I'm in the same boat. Why do you think I know that it's a $50 late fee? Like, we're all the same. All right, holiday party. Talk a little bit about this, Colleen?
Sure.
Like you and Rick are better at the explanation of the holiday party.
You know everything. You should.
Sure. So, our holiday party is the first Saturday in December, which it is always. So even if you're not participating this year, if you want to plan for next year, it's always the first Saturday in December. You can still sign up and participate. You can still invite your clients. You can still invite your family and friends while you are seeing them on Thanksgiving this week. We plan everything. It's $50 to participate. That helps cover the cost of the venue, tablecloths, food and stuff that we have there that we provide. Santa and Mrs. Claus are there. They're excellent. We've had them for, 5, 6 years. They're amazing. They actually answer their telephone, Mrs. Claus or Santa, when you call their help. Like, they're in character, I think, all year. Yeah, so they are amazing. Invite your friends, families, neighbors, everyone. We have a sign up genius that's going out. So similar to a potluck, just bring something would be awesome. Doesn't even matter what, just bring something for the table. It's like light appetizers. We have a hot cocoa bar that Beth and
Was amazing.
yeah, and we have hot cider, coffee, water. We do keep it pretty simple. There's fun crafts stuff to do too.
We have the balloon guy this year.
We do, and I have,
Oh, yeah.
I have a big ask. So we've had Sherry and I have got 5 kids. Okay, Sherry has 3 kids. I have 2 kids, and I can't go any further, like between us, that still is a mess. So Sherry and Bill have 3 kids, I have 2. They're all grown up, and I taught them how to do all of the balloon stuff. And, none of them are available, which is problematic. My wife will be gone and Bill will be gone, so I need someone to help. Whether it's one of the ladies or the one gentleman on your team. I could, and, you know, anyone.
What is required of helping with
Okay,
this?
so helping,
I need to know what the prerequisites are.
helping is first that you gotta like kids, cause if you don't, it's.
I'm out,
freaking
I'm out.
nightmare. Okay, and second, you have to be nice to kids, so I pretend the whole,
Road.
more seriously, though, I really do need help, cause this is.
You have to know how to make balloons.
Hundreds,
He's gonna
yes.
teach you. That's
I
what he's
can
saying.
quickly teach people. I just need like 1 hour in the office here with somebody, you know, next week. And I can teach you some stuff very, very easy. You know, we do Santa hats and we do swords and we do butterflies.
Oh, wait, they're like, that person is helping you make them, not just
That's
like blowing it up?
Yeah, Sherry can blow them up. She's, yeah, I'm all by myself, so I need help.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of scared of the sound of balloons and a
Okay.
little nervous of them popping. Is this probably not the best thing for you, or are you thinking?
Probably not.
You get you one of those anxiety vests.
We'll take that
It's,
off.
you know,
the
it's pretty busy. There's a lot of kids there. There's a lot of kids coming up and looking for balloons, so it's.
They have to stand in line though.
You should
like-
do that.
No, oh yeah, they're always super.
They do a good job.
Rick, if no one volunteers, I will find someone and pay them. But I'm not gonna do it.
I may or may,
There'll be people, someone's gonna want to, so spread the word, please. Someone in the office will wanna do it.
I actually
Super
think
fun.
you should make a Facebook Live in our office Facebook group explaining everything you just did.
Well, let's
Paige
just-
could maybe help you. My middle daughter could
There
maybe.
you go. Anybody who's got a
She
kid
has a lot of
between the
patience
ages
and
of,
she likes
between the
children.
ages of like 10 and 20, you know, would be perfect. So.
She's Rick, she might
Okay.
be your gal.
Okay, I can teach her. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you gonna be around?
Okay, awesome. We got that covered. Okay, who is all signed up for the holiday party food collective? Everybody signed up here? If you have not signed up and you're going, can you please sign up today? Right now, scan this QR code and just say if you're bringing a +1 or not. And mainly it's just so that we have an actual count of how many people are going. If you're not going, zero pressure, but if you are, I would like to take just like a second here to actually have you sign up, say whether you're bringing someone or not, and then we know.
You have to RSVP by the 5th, which is coming up here. So
That's coming up quick. And to, I think Bethany's point, I think we forgot that it's like almost December next week. And that's why I think we haven't been signing up, is just like timing wise, I think we're like, oh, that's a long ways out. It's not.
I even RSVP'd for a +1 and I don't have one yet, so, you know.
Well, we
you.
can talk about that guy this morning who's got 638.
We're not bringing him.
But
not bringing that.
it's Christmas time and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna put that +1 on there.
Holiday date.
Holidays, yeah. Did you watch that movie? I did. Okay. All right. You signed up?
It's actually really cute.
It is really cute. You guys should watch it.
You need a cheat.
Guys and gals.
Holiday date.
Yes. See? Those Hallmark
Terrible acting, but you go into it knowing. I felt it was very, very relatable.
Every action movie is terrible acting. You can't watch it. All right, moving on. Bringing it back in. Oh, this just came up looking different.
I know.
I was like, what is this? Okay, so I just want to say thank you to Profile. What we did is we asked just kind of what's been going on in November so far, this year versus last year. So this is, you know, those that are writing offers through Profile. So this is not like 7 County Metro. This isn't in regards to that. It's us asking a profile manager or a transaction management company what they see the difference between last year and this year. The reason for this is I want to start a conversation on what we're seeing, right? Because I think a lot of us, just like Rick just mentioned, is, man, you know, we're seeing contract for deed, we're seeing other options, you know, sellers don't want to reduce their price, buyers are, you know, freaked out about interest rate, what their payment might be. So when we take a look at this, it's really interesting. I can't read it like that for some reason. Can you guys read it like that? You guys are good? Okay. So multiple offers, is 25% this year. Do we know what it was last year? Kelly? Do we remember what it was for multiple offer situations?
We did not track it.
You didn't track it last year. I would say it's probably close to, if I was to guess, like 80%. So in regards to 25% only being in multiple offers, is interesting. Is that what we're feeling right now? Yes? Okay. However, when you look at sales price to list price, that's not that big of a difference. I mean, yes, it's 2%, but that's not a lot compared to like when we're watching price reductions. That's not a huge difference. Are you feeling that or not? Like, are we still getting close to asking price as sellers?
I think part of that is now we're far enough into it where people are, listing agents are being careful about the price that they're listing at, right? I was talking to Eric about a new listing and they're like, whatever you do, just make sure that it's, at fair market value or under what you think is fair market value in order to get them sold.
So I think that's a great point though, is what does that conversation look like with those sellers, right? Because I think a lot of times we were having the conversation, they're like, I think I can get this because, my neighbor got whatever 3 months ago. So what does that conversation look like to actually have a aggressively priced home versus one that's overpriced and needs a price reduction? Because price reductions are happening every single day now. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that says 0 price reductions.
I think it's important to bring like the stats, show it to them, because it's one thing to say it. So like printing off the information out of Info Sparks. That's what we do a lot.
Okay.
To really show them where things are at currently at the market and then where they were previously to show the difference.
So I'm gonna play kind of devil's advocate on that, right? So when I look at this, right, we're still selling 98% of asking price. And you tell them to list at $499 rather than $525, right? Whatever that is. I don't know what the percentage of that is. They're gonna say, well, let's just list it at $525. I'm still getting, people are still getting 98% of asking, which is gonna give me more than if I listed at $499, right? So like, what stats do you bring in that situation, right? Because those are still pretty close in regards to where we're going with offers. Would you guys agree with that? So I think it's a very nuanced conversation with stats.
And I would, at that point, I would use mindset in lieu of stats. I would say, Kami, I understand that you want to list at 525. I'm just going to outline 2 options for you. We're going to play out. I can't predict the future, but based on the information that we have being in the market every day for the past number of years, I can share with you that if you guys choose to list at 525, it's highly probable that the home will stay in the market for 3 to 4 weeks. At that time, we'll start doing price reductions until we find the price that it was supposed to be at. Versus if we were to list now, we're looking at the house being on, and here's, looking at the stats, the average is 7 to 10 days. That your house will be on 2 weekends of open houses, and we're going to get it sold within 98% of sales price. If we leave it on at the higher price and do the reductions, it is almost an absolute certainty that you'll end up selling less than 98% of the 500,000 that we're recommending. Does that make sense? Because you're going to go backwards. It's going to be a longer time in the market. We're going to be further into winter, and eventually you're going to end up selling the house at around 580.
Okay, so
480.
if you were to use stats when you go to a listing presentation, which I hope we all use stats, and we're talking about aggressively pricing a home or strategically pricing a home or getting your home sold at the right price, what stats would you bring?
I love the showing time report that shows how many shows.
That was exactly where I was going with that.
Per price point.
Yep, because when you look, I think a lot of times when you look at showings per price point in that particular area, which you can get down to zip code, neighborhood, any specific portion, right? If you have 10 showings per listing is at $499 and you have 2 showings per listing at $525, what is that gonna say? Like which one would you rather have as a seller? Would you rather have 2 showings or would you have 10 showings? Which one has the higher potential, right, of getting your home sold? That's like a live question. 10, right? So that's not even mindset, right? And if it is 525 is getting more showings, figure out, is that where you wanna be or not, right? So I'm like, that piece, I think we underutilize. And do we know how to use that particular tool? Yes,
Yeah.
everybody knows how to use that.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I wanna speak for everybody.
Raise your hand if you know how to use that. Do you guys use that a lot?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you
Here's
guys?
the only time I won't bring it. One of my favorite scripts is when you search the MLS or not, I don't say the MLS, but I say when you search Zillow or Realtor.com, because everyone does, you use their sliding scale. Most of the time, those tools are in $25,000 increments, correct? They're like, yes. I'm like, awesome. That's how people search. So if you think that your house is worth $535, we need to price it at $525 so enough people see it because of the search tools that they're using. So because I have had this happen where the showing time report will say 535 is the higher number, I will not bring the report and I will push for the 525 price. That's the only time I don't use that report.
I want to add to that. I think that's awesome. In addition,
So in
lenders,
addition to that,
lenders will also approve at $25,000 to $50,000 marks. So if somebody's approved up to 500,000, there's up to 500,000. If you're listed at 499, how does your house compare to these other homes that we're looking at under 500,000 that are showing you? Pretty darn good. Now let's imagine you're at Kami that you are at 525 because you're going to make that mistake. Now you're comparing your home to other homes that are at the 550 range where people are qualified, or even the $600,000 range. Now, in comparison to those, you may not look like the best house on the market. So those are two other variables that all of the stuff together means that you need to be listing at, where Bethany recommends.
I think the biggest thing though is when you go into a listing appointment, you're screwing up right away if the first thing you say is, Amy, thanks so much for the opportunity to meet with you to get your home sold. I'd love to know in advance, what are your goals with this meeting tonight? Because I have goals with this meeting tonight, but what are you looking for out of this meeting? Because if they tell me like, we just need you to tell us how much our home is worth and get it done, awesome. I'm not gonna even go through our marketing systems, all that BS. If they then are like, well, I wanna know, and I can tell that they're more on the fence, then I know I have to go deeper into motivation to sell. But if you don't know their motivation, you can't push on those points. Any of the scripts that Rick and I are talking about right now actually don't really matter.
okay, can you say that again? What do you say when you first sit down?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to sit down with you and get your home sold. So I'm kind of assumptive closing immediately. And then I have some goals tonight for our meeting, but first I'd really love to know what your goals are for our meeting. And then I just listen and I write down. And I write everything they say, because it's not that I can't remember, it's I want them to feel heard. I always have a notebook, as old school as that sounds. I always have a notebook or something I can write on, and that's what I take notes on.
Got that. Does anybody do that pre-going into the listing appointment? Like what are your goals for this appointment, right? Okay,
Who still does the bold pre-call script before they go?
Everyone even told what that is.
I'm guessing people don't know what that is. I don't think they've done that in a long time. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be bold. It could be any pre-call, like when you set the appointment. Let's just go back, right? Because I think a lot of times, like we've been talking about lead generation, right? And our lead gen has not been 100%. I would not say it's even 6 out of 10 across the board for our market center, right? Or just real estate agents in general. So when you're setting an appointment, what does that actually look like? I like real answers, not like this is what it should look like. I'd like to know what it looks like. When you set an appointment, a listing appointment, what does that look like?
Just had one for Tuesday of next week, and I talked to her and she said, we've got an agent that we worked with before. So let me let you know that we've already talked to him, but it's kind of getting out of the business. Who were recommended to us. So one of the things that I said that I feel is very important is I said, I want to have as productive as a meeting as possible when I come to your home. So I'm going to come well prepared. So I'm setting the stage. Because I think that's the greatest opportunity and probably the difference between me and an agent who's getting out of the business. so I said, I'm gonna follow up with an email and ask you some basic questions about your home. And if you don't mind, then, and that'll confirm our appointment, so on and so forth. She then responded back that on taxes, the basement's finished, the basement's not finished. These are the things that they've done to the home. It's easy enough. Now I can go in with absolutely everything I need. I don't need to go to that house twice at all. So, and I will.
So you set the appointment, right? And then you confirm via email.
Yes, but also set the standard or the expectation that I am going to come well prepared. So I'm
What does that
already
mean?
setting the stage. A lot of agents go in and do that in the initial.
I mean, if I was a consumer, I'd be like, what does that mean? Right? Because I'm like.
Well, I'm gonna
well-prepared.
bring a 3-phase thorough market analysis to talk through value with you. We're gonna sit down and I'm gonna, go through a sequence.
And that's on the phone call?
Questions, yeah. If they ask.
Really quick, I'm sure you are doing this. I would say when you're setting the appointment, you're figuring out their timeline. Because if they're 6 months out, you're
Yep.
still gonna wanna get in front of them if they're interviewing other people. But you might not do as detailed.
Correct. Well, she told me they're selling in February, so that's.
This is not like what order, but this is where I'm
I
like,
think
That's
the
exactly
time-
right. If
The
it's next
timeline is
year.
important to what you're gonna have them prepare, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's a very different conversation if we're gonna reset and.
are you finding out motivation when you set that appointment? Or are you just going on the appointment thinking that you're gonna figure out the motivation when you get there?
I always know the motivation and I always know the timeline and I always know all decision makers will be present.
Oh, yeah, we could confirm that too. That's important too. If they say, no, he's not gonna be around, what do you, can I confirm that?
Okay, so this was just haphazardly what we just talked about, right? There can actually be a checklist that you do when you're lead generating, right? Because how are we making these appointments a lot of time? I know it's not calls because most of you say you don't make calls. So,
Text and Facebook Messenger.
okay, text and Facebook Messenger. How else?
What's the question?
How are you making the appointments? Okay,
Which I always do on the phone too. A lot of my leads will come in other places.
here's why I say, right? And I can say this for me as a recruit. When I make an appointment, if I just set the appointment and then hope that they're gonna show up, they show up about 50% of the time. Right? And I can do that. I could pump out eight appointments in a day that you can set, right? And they don't show up, right? One, they don't know why they're coming here. I don't know what they want out of the appointment. If you don't confirm it with a calendar invite of some sort, they are now not any way, shape, or form putting it into their calendar. Half the time, you guys don't even have it in your calendar, right? So they definitely don't have it in their calendar. And then 3, actually confirming that, hey, I'm coming out at this point in time. When you make a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, how many times do you get reminded of that appointment? 1 million times, right? It's a text message, it's a phone call, it's an email. It's also in your calendar. Are we actually doing that? Or when we say we set an appointment, and I'm coming from my own, like, this is a vulnerable place to be, right? Like, I know this is what we're doing. So you guys can actually agree with me or not, but you're making an appointment, you're putting it maybe in your calendar, you're like throwing some comps together, and then you're shooting out to the appointment, right? To me, that does not seem professional at all. They didn't get a calendar invite, they didn't get a call of reminder that you're coming, they didn't get any confirmation anywhere. And you have no idea what their timeline or their motivation is. And then you get out there and you're like, well, that was stupid. They don't even want to move. They just wanted to know what their house was worth, whether or not they should refi or do this or do whatever, right? Well, that's on you guys. You're not taking the time to be the professional when you set the appointment. And if they cancel, they absolutely should cancel. You know what we do now? Lydia calls every single one of my appointments to make sure that it's confirmed. Every single one of them. Sends out the Zoom links. If they are like, hey, I can't show up, here's the Zoom link. We're in communication all the time on this is what it looks like.
Yeah, so our team actually will send out the calendar invite and typically we'll also have another team member present. as well at the appointment, so we also get it, whether it's me or it's Paige. And then mom, I'll see that she'll confirm it or send an email. She's very good at double checking and making sure that, yes, we're confirmed. With one of our listings, we had somebody that wanted to see it, didn't have an agent. She went out and showed it to them, found out that they had to sell their home. This probably would take too long for them to put an offer on our listing. So we've set up an appointment to work with them and figure out what, what they needed. But we did it with enough time to find out some of those motivations. She found out some of it in person, but didn't do it immediately for later that day or the next day, so we could give them the best of what they were actually needing, not waste their time or our time.
Am I off on this, that this is how we set appointments or how we're doing appointments? Or is everyone doing a pre-list, a pre-qual? Is everybody doing that for every single appointment?
I know I have different types of appointments.
Okay.
So, example, we work with a lot of people that, so on the selling side, that are like a year out. So next week,
Okay.
Monday, I know because they want to start working with one of our buyer's agents on starting to get set up on a search and they're getting pre-approved. They're like, Bethany, we know we need to do some work to our house before we list it next year. I will absolutely set a 30-minute appointment to walk through their house with them, take notes, tell them what's worth updating, what's not worth updating. But I do not do as much preliminary. I won't even run a CMA for them. And I tell them that. We are way too early. The market's changing too much. I actually, depending on, like, I'm about to list a house in Plymouth, the entire house has been redone except the kitchen. Because personally, I think a buyer is going to want to do with the kitchen. I would want to do the kitchen completely different and open up a wall. So I told them, let's price it accordingly and leave the kitchen the way it is. So it's a 30-minute walkthrough and then I follow up. But you've already then built the rapport with them, but I don't waste a lot of time on that appointment. Does that make sense? Like a walkthrough appointment,
Complete sense.
very different. And so it saves me time, but I know motivation. I know both of them are going to be there. I'm also telling them like, no, I actually don't think Andersen windows are the only option. Like, can I provide you with a cheaper solution that I think is just as high quality? And then same thing with the buyer consults. Like we're working with a lot of first-time home buyers, their primary bread and butter, and they don't understand that a buyer consult helps them.
That's even, I mean, we're talking about listings right now, but a buyer consult is even more important because they have no clue usually anything about the process because there's not a tangible thing they have to get ready besides their mindset and themselves and their finances, right? But it's not an actual place. It's not their home that they have to get ready. So it's even more important for a buyer consult for them to realize why and what the expectation is there as well and what they're going to learn from it and what you need from that.
Yeah, and I don't meet with them. No one on our team does buyer consult unless they're pre-approved. Because and I explain it as, hey, Kami, I'm really excited to talk to you about your home buying goals. In order for us to talk about them in real numbers, we need to have your pre-approval done in advance. So can you get this done in the coming week? I'm going to make an introduction to someone I trust. And I even include the application link. I don't even depend on the lender to send the application link. It's a templated email. Our clients then say like, awesome, I'll get this done, whenever. And last week we submitted 2 to our lender. One is my hair extension girl, and one is one of the trainers at the gym I go to. And it's like, all it was, yes, what's your information? Awesome. This is what I need you to do first. And now I'm doing a buyer consult with one of them this week, or by next week.
You guys just hear that?
Which I'm happy to share any of our templates. Like, I think we overcomplicate it.
I think we overcomplicate things and we don't do the job as a professional. Right? Our job is to make connections and have knowledge for people to gain from us as a real estate professional. Would you guys agree with that? It is not to worry about what our marketing looks like all the time. It is not to worry about what our social media looks like all the time, unless you're giving actual knowledge base there. Like, that's not your job. Your job is to go meet people and set appointments. And if we aren't setting appointments with like purpose, that's also why it's not turning into an actual paycheck 6 months from now, right? Because people will like meet with you and they'll take whatever information they want from you, but if they don't feel like you're the professional that they need in that setting, you are not gonna get a contract signed. You won't. How many times have we done the same thing? You get information from someone and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna sign that, I'm good, and you go on to something else. When I went car shopping, absolutely, that's what I did. I went and gained all the knowledge that I could find until I thought that I had enough information and trusted someone to make the right decision. Right? That's it. That's what we do as a consumer.
Did any of those dealer salespeople ever say, Kami, have we answered all of your questions that you feel comfortable purchasing a car today?
One. And it's the same person that I buy all my cars from. And let me tell you, it paid off in the long run.
I find that one of my favorite quotes, I shared this before, is that we overcomplicate things to justify our inaction. And when I am coaching with our agents, one of the biggest things that show up is they're like, I didn't make my lead gen calls because I'm already feeling stressed and that's just gonna add more stress to my plate. And
Like a snowball effect.
and I'm
of
like, bullshit. Because here's the thing, I asked them this, when have you ever felt too stressed by too much business? And it's maybe happened one day, because everybody wants to see a house in the same day. But it's like we make it this thing where like, okay, let's just say that happened. Then what? We have an office of 140 people that someone could help show a house for you. Like BS, next excuse.
I think that there needs to be the reason that I'm going back to these basics, right, is as we're seeing, I mean, over the last 3 weeks, all of us TLs call agents, right? And constantly are calling agents, seeing if they're interested in Keller or if they want business consulting. I would say, no joke, 50% of our phone calls are people saying, I'm getting out of the business.
What was that percentage?
50%. Absolutely. And you know what? When you ask them, why are you getting out of the business? Because I can't make it work anymore. I'm going to call BS on that because there's a difference. You're going to go find a job that's 40 hours a week at least that you're paying nowhere near what you're going to get paid in this business. Nowhere near. And if you actually tracked your 40 hours a week as a real estate professional, I guarantee
Or less.
none of it is 40 hours. Guarantee it. And that does not count putting out signs at your open house that took you 15 minutes. And then you said it took an hour. Like, no, it did not. Okay, like it didn't. We all got into this business for a reason, right? Whatever it is, help people make more money. There's zero judgment in why you got into the business. I got into the business because I wanted to make a ton of money. I was young, I was in my 20s, and I wanted to make a ton of money, right? In that, it so happens that I'm helping a lot of people while that happens, right? But at some point, you gotta realize you have to put the work in. There's not gonna be this fun, easy button. Zillow's not gonna pay you. Like that stuff doesn't happen. There is hard work that gets people to where they are. And yeah, some people are like, oh, that person's really lucky. Maybe, but guess what? They rode luck for a really long time. Met with an agent that said, oh, I built my business on 19 years of luck. No, you did not. And if you did, you should go buy a lottery ticket because if you've got that much luck, you don't even have to be working. I can't stress enough that you have to do the things that the job requires. And it's lead gen, it's being a professional, it's doing things like this when you set an appointment, right? It's not just calling up your friend and being, let's go have coffee because it's really fun. I'm in real estate now. I'm just considering if you might want to buy or sell with me. That's not an appointment, you guys. That might be a contact, but that's not an appointment. I'm going to call it out right now. If that's what your appointments look like, you need to change that. or you're gonna be one of that 50% that's getting out of the business next year, and I can guarantee that.
You don't count it unless you present paperwork.
And I'm not being like bah humbug before the holidays, but this is the moment that you get to connect with people starting tomorrow for the next 45 days.
You have been uninvited to our Christmas party.
Don't worry, I get uninvited to a lot of things. You're like, no, but I'm serious. I say this because I care, right? And I know that there are people in here that are struggling. I know there's people on the Zoom that are struggling. I know there are people in our market center that are struggling. Nobody necessarily wants to admit it. And nobody likes looking in the mirror and being like, oh, it was me. It was me that didn't want to make the phone call. It's me that's scared of my own success. Nobody wants to say that. Nobody.
I think it's important, Kami, that people know that like no one is untouchable by the market. I mean, conversations that Jess and I are having, and we're having a great November. I think over 10 closings, but our December looks like crap. And we're not even looking at January and February yet, right? So it's like the reality is no one's untouchable. However, there's so much opportunity right now, and I would encourage like this is a first-time home buyer. Like this is the best market for a first-time home buyer that I believe we will see in the next 18 months. I mean, there are people that literally have to sell their properties by the end of the year. So anyone that has ever said, I'm thinking about buying a house, the conversation isn't let's go get coffee or let's go get happy hour. Now you could do that. But the conversation is, hey, Kami, you had talked about wanting to buy a house. And can I share with you that actually we just had someone get an offer accepted for $37,000 under asking price. And then in the same day, we got an investor 2.7% off of the original asking price. Like people are kind of desperate. Not everyone, but there's plenty of them that are. Have you reconsidered purchasing a home in the next couple of months?
December is a unique time. Like December is a really unique time. One for first-time home buyers, but anyone that invests in real estate are still turning real estate in December. Why? For tax purposes. Either they have to buy something ASAP or they have to get rid of something, right? That is just how the real estate industry works with investors. Like, because they've left it till whatever amount of time and they're like, I got 30 days. And you know what? You now have a client and you're closing in 30 days. And right now, those same people who used to work with one agent that had it under contract, that was their buyer, are working with 6. And whoever finds them that property, they will buy it. Like it's still happening in December, as much as we all think that it's like, oh, it's like calm down. No. We as agents are allowing it to calm down because we're stopping working. Because it's super fun to go to holiday parties. It's super fun to be social. And that's awesome, but make that event into setting an appointment.
I made a Facebook post. Anyone's welcome to use either of those situations as their own. I view the office as a huge team. So do the same thing as you're making those calls. Someone on my team got an offer accepted for a first-time home buyer, $37,000 off the sales price. Like, I think actually that would be a really interesting thing as an office to use moving forward, would be encouraging people to share those wins.
Yep.
Because I think one, to Alex's point earlier, like the conversations between him and Rick encouraged him going into his open house. And I think those success breeds success. And so just know, I mean, you're welcome to use any of our stuff anytime. And we don't have it all figured out either. Like our December looks like garbage.
But going off that, the closing I had on Friday was in St. Louis Park, 2-car garage, 3-bed, 2-bath for $240,000. The basement needed some help, but I mean, the floor is unfinished. The basement bathroom's not the prettiest, like you would want to like kind of gut it, but the plumbing's there, the space is there. It's like the fact that, and then we got it for 20,000 under, to your point. It was just like, people are willing to accept. And it's like, yeah, they have to do a little bit of work, but like get a house anywhere for $240,000, let alone a 3-bed, 2-bath garage in St. Louis Park. Unheard of.
Well, and these are the conversations that we, as real estate professionals, need to have, because the conversation that everybody else is having is not this. Right? It's, you can't find a house, interest rates are horrible, you know, all these things, but this is happening. These are 3 situations that happened just in the last, 3 weeks? I haven't heard anything about that from people in the like general mainstream like population, right? That's not what their perception of the market is.
Which to that point was why we did a market update to our chamber and why everybody appreciated it so much more. And we brought actual, like, not just data, info sparks and what's actually happening in the market, which was really interesting to show them in those areas the chamber focus on, but also anecdotally from our clients. And I think we actually even have cases that could turn next year from that.
I say this, right, you know, like I say all these things because I'm grateful for every single one of you in this office. I'm grateful that you get to run your business. I'm grateful that I have the chance to help lead you. I'm grateful that you guys are the ones that are like leading your own lives with the independence of what you're doing, right? So at any point in time when you're like, man, Kami is just not a nice human being, I'm just telling the honest truth because I care. I care, and if I didn't and I want to give you a whole bunch of smoke and sunshine, that's not going to be helpful. And I'm not going to see some of you anymore, right? So when this comes to like these conversations and I become really passionate and you kind of see me get almost a little bit angry, it's because I know that everyone can do it and we're just not doing it, right? And that's okay. That's in the past, but moving forward, we have to be doing those things. Because the results will come over time, but they don't just randomly show up. It has to be consistent over a long period of time. And that period of time might be 2 weeks, it might be 3 weeks, it might be 6 months. But you have to be doing the work. And all of the numbers show. I mean, we can go through the rest of these numbers, right? So appraisal gap, there's 0. 0 here, escalation clause, I don't even know if that's happening anymore right now, especially if there's not multiple offers. Inspections, no one's declining inspections right now. The only way someone's declining an inspection, again, is if they're an investor and they already bring someone in with it. Otherwise, you're getting an inspection. And those inspections are real interesting for those that haven't been in the business for more than 3 years, right? Because the things that are just normal in a transaction are coming up again. Things like sewer inspections, like that's normal things. Like that's not anything that's out of the ordinary. What else? Cash, you saw 0 in November for cash. Inspection 6 days, conventional 50%, FHA 50%. I find that interesting, right? So we went from very heavy on cash and conventional to now all of a sudden people are taking a look at FHA.
And that get bumped down to something?
It doesn't matter though. I'm talking about what it looks like to accept an FHA when people didn't know what they were doing, right? Like, so in regards to that, just speaking to the point of first-time home buyers, a lot of those are FHA home buyers, right? Seller paying closing costs, 25%. That's actually really interesting compared to last year. It's not that much more, but you know, and then contingent upon the sale of a home. That is happening a lot. And if you don't know how to handle contingencies on selling a home, I would highly recommend getting with someone that's been in the business for at least 5, 6+ years, right? Because there are nuances to that. And there are also options on the lending side for that as well, where it doesn't have to be a contingent offer, or just know what you're doing when you're negotiating that.
I was gonna share the stats that I post like every month when they come out from Growing Time and Info Spark. They're 6 of them. They're super simple. Days on market, new listing for the top position, showing pending, which is also really interesting, and then percent of the sales price. And so then I just choose like what city I want to do, specific, like, you know, 3-bed, 2-bath for like a $400,000 home in whatever city. And then I've added a question box too, and I always get so many like interesting questions, because people don't wanna like. Reach out to you, but like, if you give them an opportunity to ask like a
Yep.
question, then they'll ask, so.
I like that.
I was just gonna plug our private Facebook group too, like, Bethany, you posted it on your, yours, but that's awesome office information to share too. So if you guys like see that in your offers or have updates, like that's a really great place to put that as well in our private group, because that helps everybody, in the office, and it's a centralized location. And thank you for sharing.
Let's go to wants and needs. And we also have our chili cook-off. I'm like, I didn't mean to be heavy before Thanksgiving, but I'm like, there's a part of me that wants you to, realize that this is an opportunity, like truly is. The next month and a half is an opportunity to be able to connect in a very different way than any other agent.
We will send out, our weekly email that goes out has all those numbers.
Yeah.
But this week we'll also have a couple of scripts on that email. So
Conversation.
one is one is the pre-qual checklist of questions that you talked about today, that we use for our Profile Plus. And then we also have some objection handlers for waiting till spring, and 11 reasons why it is great to list certain companies.
The pre-qual questionnaire, if you are so adamant about not calling them back up and getting that information, which some people are, you can put that into a Google Doc or like a Google form as well, where you just send that to them and can you fill this out prior to our meeting by X time or X day? And they will fill out all of that information, right? And you don't give the option, it has to be required that they fill out each portion of it. And there you have the information in one spot. So if it's like, oh, I don't have time, again, I'm gonna call, on that. Then send that out, have an automatic email sent out to them where it's a Google form.
That's what we do for our buyers, like, send a question anytime we have a buyer's spot.
Yeah.
Useful.
All right, send wants and needs then to Lydia. She'll send them out. Otherwise, we have a ton of chili and other items in the back. So enjoy and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I'll see everybody in like 2 weeks because I'm gone next week.
Happy early birthday.